What's up, everyone? Giselle Toad or Jazzy Wings, whatever channel this is going on, and welcome to what the video title says: how to take apart a PlayStation 3. But more specifically, let's see here, how to apply thermal compound. I guess I have some Arctic Silver 5. I'm going to apply to this because the fan keeps going to the high speed after like a minute or so. So yeah. This is just mostly though how to take it apart, because like I'm sure people are gonna bitch at me about, you know, oh, you're putting on the paste wrong, you're doing this wrong, you're doing that wrong. So yeah. Anyways, my PS3, it's PS3 Phat, by the way. Just, you know, if you couldn't tell, it's the PS3 Phat. It's PlayStation 2 compatible, as well as, you know, PlayStation 1. So this top part clips off, but it's supposed to, it's normally supposed to be a lot harder to slide off. It's supposed to like click into place. Mine just like slides on and off. So. But yeah, just take it off, and that exposes the top to be able to take stuff off. Also, I apologize about bad camera angles. This is the best I could get. I don't have a tripod, so I have the most ghetto setup to have this camera set, like aiming, so I apologize for bad camera angles. But anyways, there are plenty of screws all along here. You know, there's like, I don't even bother counting, but there are several long ones, 2 short ones, and 1 medium one. Remember the locations of them. On facing you, I believe the camera angle should be alright, yeah. So facing you, this one back here is the medium one, and this one, these 2 here, this one and this one, are the short ones. So, those are the ones we're going to take off. Anyways, let's go ahead and take these off. I'll fast forward these parts. For these 2 down here, you're going to actually want to use a regular screwdriver. I mean, if you have one of these that'll fit down there, then go ahead, but mine won't fit, so I mean, you're more than likely going to have to use a screwdriver. So, yeah. Alright, so with those out of the way, put them off to the side where you won't lose them. And, let's see here, make sure the camera is alright. Okay, so now this whole top part should just come right off. Pick it up from the back and bring it forward like that, so it folds open towards you. Then immediately you're gonna have, you know, the memory bay things. I can't think right now. The SD card slots and stuff will be right there, as well as the USB ports, I believe, are connected through this one ribbon wire. You can either disconnect it here or here to get it out of your way. I go ahead and disconnect it here, just because it's easier to work with. So if I can get to the clip, there we go. Alright, so let's set that out of the way, and now you have, you know, open insides of it. This is the Blu-ray drive, and this is the power supply. So which I actually going to want to do is take both of these off. This part actually just lifts off. It's not screwed down, but there are wires that are connected to it. On the side here, you can see what on the side of it here, there are actually like I said, sorry about the camera angle. There's actually a wire that you have to disconnect. So just unplug it right there, or you can unplug it from here. Actually, I think that's what I'll do. Just the wire's not in my way when I'm messing with the motherboard. So unplug it there. Remember the locations of the plugs though, otherwise you'll screw yourself over. And then on the bottom here is a clip for a ribbon wire. Just clip it upwards and it'll come right off. Set that out of the way. And it faces back towards me, and I believe I can actually just leave this stuff on and take it off, I think. Actually, no. I don't think I'll be able to. I think I have to take all the shit off, if I remember correctly. Yeah, okay, so I have to take all this shit off. Alright, that includes this, this, and this, so you have to take off to actually get to it all. So, for the insides, I would suggest using a screwdriver and not some electric screwdriver, because you could screw it up, you could strip stuff out, and if you strip the screws out on the inside, you're screwed, no pun intended. So, there's arrows all inside engraved into the metal that to point to what screws need to be taken off. But for the power supply, there are 2 in the back that need to come off. Well, I missed a screw in the back. Okay, well there's 2 in the back that need to come off, and then 3 in the front. So, go ahead and take those off. Alright, now that those are out of the way, set the screws somewhere where you will not lose them. And there's a plug right here, as well as on the back side. This is a clip plug. You just unclip it. If I can actually get the damn thing. No, you just unclip it, kind of like an Ethernet cable. And then on the front, just unplug it like so. And then you can actually lift it up and off. And there's a power supply. I'm actually going to take this and plug this in here so I don't lose the wire as well. Same thing with the Blu-ray drive. So, alright. Now, there are plenty of screws on here that you have to take off. I don't think I could just like lift it off without unscrewing everything. Maybe if I take this off. This I believe is the wireless card. I'm not quite sure, but judging from laptops that are taken apart and stuff, this connection here usually means this is the wireless card, but yeah. I do know the RAM is like integrated into the motherboard, so it's not the RAM. Anyways, I'm going to try and take this off. There are 4 screws for this piece back here. This is for the touch buttons to turn it on, off, and open the eject disc tray thing. So that's what this is for. Now, if I'm doing something wrong, or if, like, say, some expert person watches this video and tells me I'm doing something wrong, keep in mind, I'm not an expert. Honestly, this is the 7th time I've taken apart this thing, trying to fix it and jigger with it and get, like, the cooling set up right. But I, by no means, have ever looked up a video on how to do it, so I could easily be doing stuff, you know, a more difficult way than need be. So, you know, don't give me shit. Anyways, put the screws out the way where you won't lose them. I keep saying out the way like I'm black or something. And no, I'm not racist, so shut up. Now, I believe I still have to take everything off. I just don't want to have to take everything off, but I'm pretty sure I have to get to it. Like, unscrew everything. Yeah, okay, alright, well there's screws all around here that you have to take off, so yeah, I'll go ahead and do it this way. Okay, now this one screw here, specifically this one here, you want to make sure that you put it back on the way that you see it. That is a grounding for the power supply. If you don't do that right, you'll wind up just screwing up the entire PS3 when you put it back together and plug it in, because it will just like arc out or some shit. So be sure to put it back the correct way when you do. Don't lose the washer that's with it. Just like keep it together, don't lose the shit for it. Alright, so now that we have all that apart, I believe we should be able to lift the entire thing out of the enclosure. Yeah, okay, so go ahead and flip it over and take the bottom section off. Actually, before we do anything else, take the clip off of this, off the side that's for the hard drive. And there we go. Now, here we have the bottom, but this is actually, you know, the top. This is the fan and the heat sink. So what we're going to do is keep it actually facing down like this. Go ahead and shimmy this off. If I can. Is it screwed on or something? Where is it? Staying on it. There we go. Okay. Alright, so remember to be careful and cautious of wires and such. Now the fan I have in here, actually I just replaced recently. I put a 19 blade cooling fan in there rather than the 15 blade stock one. This is supposed to be quieter and more efficient at cooling. It is more efficient at cooling. It's probably about 50% quieter, but the highest speed it has, or the top high speeds that it has, are still just as loud as the other PS3 fan. They're maybe like 20% quieter, so it's worth it if you're worried about it being cooled more. So anyways, you're going to want to unplug the fan, and I think that's all you're going to need to unplug. The rest of it should just come undone here. Actually, you know what? Yeah, actually, I have to take off these two things first. Forgot about that. Okay, now the fan should just come right off, I believe. I hope. I just don't want to have to take everything else off first before getting to it. Okay, so there we go. Yeah, the peso's on there already is pretty. There's not even a thick enough layer, so it's not really getting enough cooling done. But here we have the two processors. Probably can't see. You can see how much peso's on there. That's not a lot. It's a very thin layer. That's a very thin layer. Damn. That's a very, very thin layer that's not doing any cooling purposes at all. Here's the heatsink itself. This is just silicone-based stuff. This is not the good. This is not anything that's really that good. Like, this is literally just silicone-based heatsink compound that's not worth anything. You should never use silicone-based. Always try to get, you know, some like Arctic Silver 5. That's the one that everybody suggests. It's $5 for a little 5 milliliter tube that I got somewhere around here. Right here. Okay, so what you're gonna want to do now is actually take you, what most people suggest, and that usually works fine, is get you some Q-tips and alcohol and just wipe this down carefully, as well as this. So I'll be right back and go get that, wipe this off, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I'm back. Now I've wiped the processor's clean. Well, one's central processing unit, one's a graphics processing unit. But I wiped both of them clean. I actually took a rag and gently wiped off the stuff that was on there before, and then took a Q-tip with alcohol and just wiped it clean to make sure that it's completely, to get rid of all residue, or any residue from any old compounds. Now, while I did that, I went and looked up the official way that you're supposed to apply Arctic Silver 5 to a processor. Because I didn't want, you know, oh, put a P in the middle, or do this, or do that. And I didn't want to do something stupid like that. It just seemed dumb. So, the way that he said to do it is I can't see it very well on my fingers, on my pinky fingers, but basically what they were saying, what the actual guy, I went and looked up someone that called Arctic Silver themselves. But basically, what you're going to do, the amount that you're going to want to apply on the processor itself, not to both sides, just on the processors themselves, is a line about the same size as the white crescent on your pinky finger. So that white crescent at the base of your pinky finger, the white part at the very base, that's the size you're going to want to apply. Just that much. So, if I can find where I put it, here it is. So much we're going to apply. You're going to put it right in the center. Just squeeze that. I have no idea how hard this is going to be to squeeze out, but we shall see. Okay, so I didn't make it very clean and fine, but you know, it doesn't matter. It's just that size. I actually put a little bit more on there than I should have probably. but that's about how much you want on both sides. Maybe a little bit less, but that's about the amount that you want. So, if you're worried, take a little bit off, but yeah. Now, the other thing I'm going to want to do is take out the fan on the heatsink, because what you're gonna, let me take out the fan real quick and I'll explain. Okay, so the reason you want to take off the fan, or take out the fan on the heatsink, is when you set it back down, these two are going to sit on there, right? The two heatsink things are going to sit on there. You're going to want to press down on these themselves and press it into the processor. Not as hard as you can, but just firmly. That way it spreads it evenly. That way it gets spread evenly. And then after that, the heat will make it spread the rest of the way evenly like it's supposed to when it melts a little bit. So, I'm going to take it and apply it carefully. Just set it down there, and then press them in. And wiggle it around a little bit if you want to. Just don't manhandle it. Be delicate. It is very delicate hardware. But you're going to want to press it in a good amount. Make sure you're pressing on the backs of the two things, the two heat sinks. Just keep pressing it in, not as hard as you can. I just want to make sure that you don't like push as hard as you can and crack the motherboard in half. You don't gotta push anywhere near that hard, just give it some force. Now we can take it off and see how evenly it's spread. The ideal circle that you're supposed to have is about a dime. And it looks like I've mostly got that on this one, not that one. I need to push more on that one. I kind of want to take some of this off on this side, just to be safe. So, set it back on, and press down this side. Okay, so now on the heatsink and the processors, we have about a little bit bigger than a dime, but about dime size is the ideal size you're gonna want. The rest will spread evenly, like it's supposed to after you put, after it starts running from the wall. So now that we have that done, we can actually just go ahead and set this back on there. And then put the fan back in. So, now I'll proceed in putting this back together, or just throwing these back in, and then basically putting the whole PS3 back together. So, okay, so now I had a little bit of trouble putting it back on for some reason. But basically, if I didn't show you well enough earlier, there are 3 screws that you take off to get the fan itself out. This is the only part that comes out, the whole fan itself. So, like I said, 3 screws, and then this part that sits on top of a metal lip, I guess, I don't know. So, that's how the fan comes out. Now, I'm gonna go ahead and throw my hard drive back in there. Just for safekeeping. Now let's flip this over and go ahead and put the metal brackets back on. Now, when you're going to do these, you can't just like screw down one. You're screwing down like all the way on one side and all the way the other side. Do like a little bit on one side and a little bit on the other side, and then start tightening down completely. Because they fray, they're pulling upwards to keep it tightly held to it. Like I just detached the heatsink, but they're pulling upwards, they're bending upwards. to hold it to it tightly. So, like say, basically go like this. Go a little bit here and a little bit here, and then start tightening them both down. Because otherwise, you see, if you screw one side down all the way, you won't be able to get the other one in unless you shove it down hard, and you could take the chance of bending it. And you wouldn't want to do that. Okay, so now our heatsink, our heatsink is now resecured to the motherboard and will not come off. Make sure anything you unplug, you plug back in now, like the fan, otherwise you'll be screwed. It won't be cooling. So, alright, now we can actually take it and set it back in the frame. I'm going to take this and set this back on the back side again. It went. Like, you can look at the ports here and line them up here with the other ports, so it's not very hard to line this up. It just really kind of sets on there. Okay, so actually there's some clips underneath as well that I didn't realize, plastic clips. I didn't have this one aligned right, so it wasn't clipping on correctly. I didn't even know that was there. So now, just slide this in. Should go right back in place. And nice snug fit. Now I gotta put it all back together, so I will just cut this out, putting it back together, I guess. There's no point in showing it, so yeah. Okay, so when putting this piece back over here, there is first going to put on the metal part, of course, but there's actually little plastic pieces that help line it up that stick through the holes here and there. They sit there and hold it steady, and the actual little chip as well sits the same way. So that way you know you have it set up in there correctly. Okay, so here there are actually two bigger screws and two smaller screws. The smaller ones go on the thing itself, and the bigger ones go on the motherboard itself. So remember that, because the screw hole's actually a little bit sized separately. Alright, next would be to put the power supply back in place. So, if you remember, this actually went this way. It lines up perfectly. It just sits in there perfectly. It has like little grooves set for it. Be sure to plug this back in, as well as a clip on the back. If you don't plug that clip back in or plug that in, it won't power up. It just won't power up. Alright, now to put the screws back in place. Alright, now with that back in place, we can go ahead and reattach the Blu-ray drive. So, like I said, it literally just sits in here on these springs and this cushion. And of course, this here keeps it raised. But it literally just sits in there. It doesn't like screw in or anything. So, go ahead and position it the way it's actually intended to be, which is about right here. Plug this in over here, back where it was before, which is right here. Flip it around and reattach the ribbon wire, which can be a pain sometimes. Basically, you just have to slide it in correctly with the blue side facing towards the clip. It just slides in a little bit, not much. And there we go. So now that is reattached. The reason that it just sits there and isn't mounted though is because when you put the screws back together on the top, the one goes straight through here and even here. So it gets mounted through the top. So now that is back in place, I hope I put it back in tight, that ribbon wire tight enough. Make sure that you don't overpower it and that you're careful with the ribbon wires because they can break rather easily. So now that's all done though, we can go ahead and set this back in front. I guess this needs to go back over here. Put this back in front and reattach that ribbon cable. Now, when you're putting the lid back on, you're going to line up these little plastic blades correctly so it'll just roll back over and just set back on. So now it's all set back on. Time to put the screws back in place. And like I said, here is where the medium one is. And then here and here, or here and here, are the two short ones. Okay, so now that that's done, all we have left to do, place this on top, wrong direction, and slide it shut. And voila, we're done. It's taken apart and put back together. New Arctic Silver 5 compound placed on the processor, which is what you're supposed to use it anyways. Also, don't forget to put the clip back on for your hard drive cover. It actually just uses a standard laptop hard drive, which is pretty cool. It's a 2.5 hard drive. Now, good to go again. So, I'd like to thank you for watching. I hope this video helped you out. I hope the camera angle wasn't too bad. And, yeah, thanks for watching.